Top of the morning to you. It's actually going to be a pretty nice day out today. We have a little bit of snow, but I think most of the country does. I should live very close to the equator. You've probably already seen this, the Zenith. This is an r600 Zenith Transoceanic. And I've had a couple requests, and I've had these requests before I'm not sure how to put this, to make the videos more, how do I put this, maybe more fluid and more from beginning to end. And we can try and do that. One of the things that happens is when I make these videos, they're very spur of the moment and they're very off the cuff. And unfortunately, I get about 1,000 interruptions during the day. I have a lot of comings and goings of friends and customers, and what I should do is put a camera out front so you can see the traffic flow. That's why some of these videos are made in the wee hours of the morning when things get quiet. Unfortunately, it's in the real world, in the motion picture world, or the documentary world, or whatever you'd like to call it, or the video world, they're kind of two different things. Usually you have to shoot quite a bit of footage, and most of it's edited out. You lose quite a bit. That's one of the reasons I kind of shoot these things off the cuff, and they're kind of the camera on the tripod. And a lot of times documentaries or videos, they cut out anything that looks anything that doesn't fit your bill. Actually, if you sit down and read, when you produce a video or a documentary or any of those types of things, usually you make a script first, and a good video should be that way if you want it to have the look and feel of a motion picture or television. And there's actually quite a bit that goes on in the background. I don't know if most people know that or not. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, we can try and do that a little bit better. Some things I have limited control over, since I don't live on a sound stage. So anyway, let's say I just got a hold of this and brought this home. And what I'm going to do is fill in some of the gaps on this video. Usually when I get an old radio, it usually comes from a few sources. It comes from some friends. I've got a large number of friends, or the guys network. The bulk of it are made up of male, although there are plenty of female members in the, I don't know what I call the network. So maybe I need to rename it the People Network. Maybe it's probably more appropriate. These are acquaintances, or friends of friends, or friends, or relatives, or just folks I've met over the years. So we keep in touch. And the reason that I do this is it's kind of like having 1,000 eyes and 1,000 helpers. I can't do or be everywhere, and if you cultivate that sort of friendship or camaraderie or group effort, it can really benefit you. This video probably really ought to be about that and not about the radio. This particular radio came from an auction. I paid 25 bucks for it, and I believe I've mentioned this. So I brought this home, and first thing I usually do is kind of look over the cosmetics. And overall, this one is in pretty good shape. This is, like I said, this is a Zenith Transoceanic. This particular model has a cord winder. And usually I try and kind of carefully look the thing over and see what it's going to take. This one is in pretty good shape. Not perfect, though. There are a few little flaws. Like right here, these radios are covered with a material. It's somewhat similar to the material you see on some guitar amplifiers. It's sort of a cloth material impregnated with some sort of a resin, and there's a name for it, and it's not what I want to call it. I want to call it, I think, Topex or whatever, and that's not the correct name for it. This has a few wear marks, usually any corners and stuff. And if you're going to buy a Zenith, a lot of times the handles get broke. These little clasps can get broke real easy, or just generally crudded up. This particular model has and we saw this earlier, has this logbook door. These logbooks can get damaged, lost, stolen, eaten. The faces can get butchered up on these pretty easy. This one's in pretty good shape. The face is in pretty good shape on this. Usually, like I said, I look this all over, and after I get an idea of what's going on the outside, I usually break the radio kind of into two parts, and I sort of make some mental and some physical notes about the thing. One of the things I usually do is I usually get a Ziploc bag and write a few notes, and I'll put those notes in the bag, and then that bag kind of stays with the radio for the rest of its life in my possession. And what happens to it if it leaves my possession, the bag goes with it, but what happens to it from there is the new owner's responsibility. On this particular radio, now I've decided that, well, one little tidbit. People neglect to look at the bottoms of radios, and a lot of times, if they've been set in a basement and the basement's damp, the bottoms can be pretty yucky. This one has hinges and these two sort of mysterious holes and these nice little rubber feet. And actually that foot's a tiny bit loose. No big deal. I'll show you what these holes are later. So I've made the decision that I'm going to work on this. That's one of the first hurdles. And we'll pop the back off and fold this down. There's the plastic bag that I've put with this radio. And here's the model right there. Chassis number is right there. That cord is for the battery pack. And actually the Zenith Transoceanic it's an AC or a DC radio. This is a hollowed out. This is, you can't see it because my camera work is so poor. This is a hollowed out Zenith Transoceanic battery. And there's also a mating battery that goes with it. I'll show you both those. These also go in the thing when you run it on DC. These aren't necessary for the operation of the radio in the DC mode. This is. This actually is a battery made up of little batteries. There is, this particular one is an Everready battery that I hollowed out or cleaned out. I had always planned on making a kind of a dummy battery, and what happens is this actually fits inside of here, and then this plugs into there. There's a kind of a socket or a well in there normally. And FYI, that battery is an Everready 752. So, this battery actually fits up under here, and there's a plug that plugs in here, and all that battery does is run the dial lights. And on this particular model, the dial lights have no way of being powered other than that battery. So to run the dial lights, you have to have one of these cells. This is another project that I planned on. I believe I talked about it in that other video. These are both cells I've obtained. I got a hold of these to get these little sockets. The thinking was that I would make a tube that I could stick a D cell in, or maybe a C cell, and I was going to reuse that little socket. I believe it's polarized. I think one side is bigger than the other. Anyway, this is one of the other kind of, yeah, that's great. Where did that come from? This is one of the other not a problem so much, but one of the things that comes up when you make a video is your mind doesn't wander, but you if you're going in a straight line from I got a radio to repairing it and getting it up and running, there's a lot of little for lack of a better word, I guess they're called detours or side trips. Okie dokie, so we're looking at the radio, and I look at the back. These radios, they're different. A number of different versions of the Transoceanic. They have different faces. They all basically have the same case. And on the back, there's a finger hole that you can reach into. There are these little clasps that fit into this part that hold the back up. And here's the any day now. Here's the other part of the hinge. And these can get kind of crudded up. Down in here, this can get kind of crudded up. This is kind of the retainer on this particular model for this. This is the antenna. And normally, there were two little suction cups that sat there. And what that is those go on what's called the wave magnet. The magnet is a broadcast antenna, and you unhook these. A lot of times some of this stuff is missing. Anyway, on some of the Transoceanics, this unsnaps or is in the lid, and those little suction cups would go here and here, and here you can see kind of a little mech to hold the thing on the lid, and there actually is a finger hole right here that kicks that out. Zenith, on a lot of the Transoceanics had the wave magnet, and some of them actually look like magnets. They're kind of red with black ends. They're cardboard. It was kind of a clever idea. Anyway, this particular unit has a cord winder, and I believe I mentioned that in another video, and I've got some other information. This one is in better shape since I've worked on it a little bit. It's held in by these two screws, and I believe there's a so anyway, one of the things you'll need to do so if you're going to take this all apart and work on the chassis, you'll need to do a couple of things. You need to get this out of the wave magnet's cord out of the way, and that usually just unplugs, and then you pop the magnet out. And that all comes away nicely. You need to get this rod antenna out of the way. This is just a collapsible rod antenna, and on that antenna on the top you rotate that around, and when you do, this little arm right here moves. And there's a gap on there. When you line that up with that gap, the antenna hops up. And when you go to put it back down, you just reposition it in any position. When you do, it catches that. So to get that out of the way, you need your trusty pliers, which I seem to have lost. Let me stop you here. There's one of the little delays, or what do I say, annoyances. Let me pause you for a moment here and we'll be back.